Chuck Wilder, CRN. Let me tell you about my guest, Kimberly Dvorak, D-V-O-R-A-K, award-winning national security and border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is also senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. TV correspondent, CW6 News San Diego, as well as One America News Network. Her website is thekdreport.com. Hi, Kimberly. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself, Chuck?
Pretty good, pretty good. The drones are back in the news. I tell you, cartel drones are used significantly higher than reported. I think a couple of weeks ago we really got into what they were doing with the drones, but man, do you think they were listening and got more ideas?
Maybe. I think that what you're seeing is that the Mexican government is, a little slower on, getting reports out there of this nature. Obviously, the cartels are in the middle of threatening a lot of politicians. We also know now that they've been targeting police officers at their homes. In one instance, the cartels kidnapped a female police officer, killed her husband in front of her, and then took her around, raped her, tortured her, and then her entire body was filled with bullets. So this is the new generation, the Jalisco New Generation cartel that we've been talking about. They do not have any kind of moral, ethical code. The cartels of the past, they actually, they had a gentleman's agreement. You don't go to the tourist zones, you don't go after women and children. But with the new generation growing up in the era of ISIS, they've taken on a lot of ISIS's trademarks here inside the country of Mexico.
And so now there's a new sound in the air, or let's say a more frequent sound in the air, I guess.
Yep.
The bee-like sound of a flying drone, which has become a new symbol for terror. And normally you'd say, well, they're just probably taking drugs across, but no, they're C4 explosives, shrapnel. I mean, my goodness.
And grenades.
And this is
grenades. And it's
grenades.
And it's only a matter of time until we see a fentanyl attack. And the U.S. government, they have upped their purchase. The CBP has actually upped their purchase of these counter drone detectors, but they only have 6 of them, and it's a pretty big border. So it's harder for them to collect and get all of them. So this is something kind of like where you're seeing the back and forth with Palestine and Israel. They're sending little things here, they're sending things back. This is what the cartels are doing. And in the days of old, they wouldn't want any trouble inside the U.S. government, because I know that would lead to pressure on the Mexican government to take care of it, or having the DEA and other agencies go into Mexico and root out these drug cartels. So typically they were they just didn't want to come across the border and do any of those things. They just kept all of their business in Mexico. But now we're seeing that they're flying drugs across the border with these drones. They're packing them, as you said, with the C4. They're using grenades. They're targeting law enforcement that has been trained by the U.S. Law enforcement agencies. They're targeting them at their homes. They're creating even more terror than, or just simply more terror than we have seen ever inside the country of Mexico. They're on par to hit another record with murders. It's staggering what's going on. And this is the uptick in the violence, the uptick in the drones coming across the border, and the uptick of all of these migrants crossing, of course, is the Biden administration's weak here on this front. And you have a vice president who still hasn't been to the border, doesn't want to go to the border. Why? Because she doesn't want to be, tied to any position in case she wants to run for president. Well, in the meantime, we've got criminals crossing this border left and right, and they're using the migrants as bait, and all the CBP agents and Border Patrol rush to the migrants, and then while they're not looking, here goes the cartels with the drugs
terrorists
and other things that
right.
could potentially bad for us. Anyway,
going to take that break. Kimberly, and when we come back, we'll mention some of the names of the drug cartels. This is reminding me of the B-2 rockets, in World War II. However, you would hear them, the loud motor. The drones are not necessarily that loud, and you may be surprised where they get all these drones too. But we got so much to cover on this with Kimberly Dvorak. All right, and talking about cartel drone use, significantly higher than previously reported. And we got the same cast of characters, I guess, the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación.
Yeah.
And that's commonly known as CJNG. That's
New Generation.
I'll tell you.
New Generation.
And then they have this other one I hadn't really heard of, the Carteles Unidosos.
That's
fighting
that's right? Kind of like just think of them as kind of like a union of sorts. And it's kind of a collective group of, smaller players that are trying to gain a foothold in the, drug wars. Because, of course, the Sinaloa cartel has been the largest one. They're being dismantled by the New Generation cartel. That's why the violence is increasing so much. And then you have a lot of smaller cartels. And that, the Los Zetas would fall in that category. And, it just, obviously, trafficking human beings and the drug business, booming business down there in Mexico, and it's a great cottage industry for them. And the U.S. just seems pretty content to not do anything about it. On our break here quick, the story just broke that officially this morning, Biden signed a 7-page memo that came out of DHS saying that the people who are here or who were waiting in Mexico can now come to the United States, as they're ending the Trump era wait in Mexico policy by 7 pages. That's what they've done. They've dismantled that. So I'm assuming that this will make its way down to Mexico and Guatemala and other countries around the globe, and they'll say it's open season. I guess Biden wants everybody in the country, so come on in. And that's, literally just over the break, it just broke. Right. So, he signed something intent, but now this is the order, so.
Hey, check out a story that I either had yesterday or the day before, where the Biden administration is going after the people that Trump deported and find those people and tell them they can come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
I tell you,
insanity is what it is. Do they not want our country? One just has to turn on the evening news to see an explosion in crime, murders, rapes, burglaries, robberies, armed robberies. How many people are getting killed in Chicago every week? You're seeing a huge dramatic increase in all that, and it's because of this issue of open borders. And it's saying that, it's okay. I'm not certain if we're going to see a Summer of Love Part 2 coming up this week, and starting as we start into summer out here. Who knows? Because the criminals are being let out as quickly as they're arrested, and that's not good for society. I think that.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. I think we should go to Mexico City or Juarez or wherever they're making those drones and just get rid of them, he said, knowing that they did not come from Mexico. Where did they get these drones?
California.
California. And they do it over the internet, right? Hey,
yes.
Please send me 1,200 bomb-carrying drones, and please include the instructions. Kind of funny, that not funny, but it's interesting that that down there, if you know how to operate a drone, and I got to tell you, I think I destroyed a BMW. It's a long story, but anyway, it's this guy that you mentioned here, you didn't give his name or anything.
Yeah, no, because he works for the cartel.
He gets paid $350 to fly a drone.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Well, and he's also teaching people how to actually fly drones, because there is a technique, as you pointed out so eloquently with the BMW, which we won't talk about, but it is a little complicated, and so you're finding younger people going, hey, I can teach these people how to fly the drones, or they're hiring them. They're only making $350. and for something that if they get caught in America with, they're going to jail for 20 years. So I'm not sure that they get the grasp of it, but as long as they stay in Mexico for the meantime, that will be okay. But yeah, you're seeing the cartels learning how to, buy these drones, and then they're not standard drones. What they're doing is kind of like, sometimes with weapons, they can take them from semi-automatic to automatic. The cartels do. Well, the same thing here with the drones. They're taking them stock out of the box, and then they're modifying them so they can carry a load of C4 or grenades. Or, they simply, are looking to scout the territory to make sure it's clear. So, if they're flying around the border, then they can see there's an opening, there's no border patrol nearby. They can, it's good for them to sneak into the country, bringing the drugs or what have you. So the drones are used for, a number of different things, and that's going to grow. And I know we've talked about this, that there's going to be something happening in this country, because the United States has no problem using drones overseas in countries we're not at war with. There's going to come a time where Mexico, maybe Canada, doubt Canada, but Mexico will be in a position, and it's going to happen along the southern border somewhere, that they can fly, it doesn't take much, just fly just across. If you're in Tijuana, you fly over to Petco Park there in San Diego where the Padres play, a lot of people could die if a whole bunch of fentanyl drops out of the sky. Or even if it's just a C4 bomb, that will completely, cripple our economy again, kind of like 9/11, because now they're going to panic, the politicians will, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what should we do, when the root of all of this is the drugs and the cartels. So if we take care of the root problem, then maybe the migrants won't want to migrate up to America, because they can actually live in their country without the fear of having the cartels come through their town and take their young kids and turn them into, cartel fighters.
What is this El Chino drones?
Oh, the
El Chino.
It's just a brand of drones. It's just a brand.
All right. I was wondering if Chino, California, had a drone.
No,
company or something where they were making them. Yeah.
But what I will say about this.
The other thing, real quick, is I'm not familiar with TOVEX. You mentioned this. I C4, but TOVEX. Is that just another explosive I haven't heard about?
Yeah, another explosive that is easily accessible for them. And I just also want to kind of say here that the CBP and Border Patrol, that they're referring to these drones as narco drones. And so far the CBP has logged 170 incidents inside the U.S. for that. And back in 2015, out in Calexico, they had a drone that crashed into the roof of somebody's home, and CBP came to the scene, and they picked up 28 pounds of heroin. So again, these drones are not just these little ones, they're having a small payload per se, but 28 pounds, a drone that's carrying 28 pounds is quite a lot. So obviously the operator wasn't accomplished at flying it as it flew into a roof. But this is the progression and that the cartels are looking at, and they're seeing that, okay, well, we're going to take something, we're going to modify it, and we can use it in multiple ways. And just like the crisis with all of the migrants coming, they are coming and bringing kids and screaming and crying. Obviously, if you're an adult, you're going to go comfort that child, but they're using that so they can bring their drugs, their people, and their terrorists across the country, because people are not just crossing from Mexico and Guatemala. We're seeing them from Middle Eastern countries, we're seeing them from Northern African countries, and that requires them to fly from those destinations to get somewhere inside either Central America or South America, and then make the trek up that way. And the cartels are charging a lot of money for that. They're making a lot of money, and they could care less what these terrorists are planning once they're here inside the U.S.
Well, I'll tell you, they're fascinating, and I guess 99.9% of them come with a camera. And like Kimberly pointed out, if you're on one side of the border, you just move it up as high as you want into the air and check and see if there's any, what would you call them? Harris Patrol? Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Kamala Harris
Yeah.
soldiers down there. And the thing is, basically all you have to do is add a switch that's going to open up a hook.
Yep.
I think that's basically
That's
all
exactly,
you have to do.
and it just opens up the thing and drops, and whatever's in there just drops to the ground. I mean, it's primitive. I think we think it's primitive in some ways, but they're taking something that was I think kind of used for law enforcement, which has helped law enforcement in this country find people that were lost in a ferry at sea or whatever, and or a lake. I mean law enforcement does use them, but this is what the cartels are doing. They're using them for bad purposes, and we need to, I think, be a little bit more leery, and perhaps there's going to have to be some sort of restrictions on who can buy these drones. I mean, I know that I bought a couple for my son when he was younger, and that was years ago, but there's the market has exploded, and unintended, but they're using it for, they're not, it's not a good thing, and it's also escalating the war inside Mexico right now as well. So the cartels are very smart. I mean, a lot of them don't even go to school in Mexico, and people think they're dumb because they don't get out of third grade, but they're pretty smart because they're pretty rich. And El Chapo, for only having a third grade education, he seems to have duped the U.S. government, because nobody's found or recovered the billions of dollars that he has hidden away somewhere. So the criminals aren't dumb, they're actually just street smart, and they're actually outsmarting us in this country. We're not taking it seriously. You talk to any DEA agent, and they will tell you that this country is not taking the drug problem seriously. And I've asked and talked to senior people and asked point blank, is there any chance we could get these cartels in Mexico? And if so, how long would it take? And would we do it with or without the Mexican government support? And they said in a heartbeat, yes, it would take a couple weeks, and with or without the help of the Mexican government, because at some point all of these overdose deaths in this country are deaths by the Mexican drug cartels. So, and nobody's being held accountable for that. And so we're talking hundreds of thousands of people that have overdosed. Well, that didn't, these people just didn't wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to mix some Alka-Seltzer with some sugar, and then I'm going to overdose. I mean, it's not that. So there's definitely collateral damage in this country as a result of this, and that collateral damage is our young people being addicted to drugs and overdosing on drugs, and then going to rehab, and and around we go. And this country doesn't seem to be willing to do what it takes to at least slow the addiction rate in this country.
And a moment ago, Kimberly, you mentioned, like down in, pardon me, San Diego, border city, and how they're so close to the baseball park, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
So you think about right now, they're dropping drugs off, things like that, and dropping it on each other over there if they don't like them.
Yeah.
But you know how the Dems are so worried about January 6th? You hear the Democrats saying, this was worse than the Civil War. This was worse than 9/11.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. If the terrorists got into Mexico, started using drones, you got a few states that could really be in trouble.
Yeah.
If the terrorists got a hold of them.
Yeah. And again, this comes down to, and this is, what the DEA's position is, we have to be right 100% of the time. They only have to be right once. And that's what you're seeing right now. They're probing. I mean, you're seeing terrorists probe. You're seeing the cartels probe to see how far they can penetrate inside this country, to see how large of a drone they can get to drop drugs off or explosives on the other side of the border. If they lose it, then okay, maybe we can't go 2 miles in, we got to go in like a quarter mile. I mean, they're currently probing on a daily basis, trying to see where our weak link is. And our weak link right now is sitting at the White House and refusing to do nothing about it. I mean, this is a crisis for these kids that are getting, taken up through the border, and the young girls that are getting raped. And, how are we going to take care of these people when right now, currently, the unemployment is paying roughly $41,000 per year for people on unemployment? You add that to these, 25 million people in this country, you're talking real crisis in this country. We cannot afford it. Right now, even doctors are saying that, they're having longer waiting periods because they have such an influx of patients coming in from the U.S. government. So these migrants are coming and they're getting free health care. They're not paying for it like you and I are paying for it. And it's just that also kind of adds to the whole animosity and pitting a race against another race. And the Democrats know this. They corner the market on this, and they're going to exploit this because they don't want to lose any more elections. And
that's right.
Yeah, and that's really
free.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Dems should be hollering, "Hey, it's free," and it came from me. And whenever you vote, you know where to put your check mark there. Yes, and the red states will be brown and Democrat. Yeah, just wait and see. Kimberly Dvorak's going to be back. We're going to wrap it up in just a moment. Remember the website, thekdreport.com. And when she does these reports, unless they ban her, very seldom, you'll find her at Facebook Live and repeated later on thekdreport.com. Be right back. Let me ask you here, what was it? Yes, I think we have time. Form I-485.
Yeah.
Hanky-panky going on there?
Yeah. So this was exactly what I wanted to end with, 3 points. The first one being that the Biden administration has taken the Form I-485, and they have removed any questions regarding gang affiliations. So the adjudicators of the claimants, when they come to the country, they tell us who they are, and they provide very little information. So these adjudicators have to ask questions, and questions are you a criminal? And there were several questions on gang affiliations. Well, the Biden administration put a rule out there that's gone. So now that we don't care. So if they're gang affiliated, now that you have even more of a green light to come up here, because the Biden administration has written that out of the adjudicator's hands. So, and on top of that, there's the border crossers that are coming up, these good people that just want a better life are coming up here, and if they are trying to cross the border without paying the local cartels or paying the cartel fees, and they are caught, they are being tortured, kidnapped, and their families, they reach out to the families. If the families cannot pay for them, then they are simply killed. And they had a case of this down in just east of San Diego, and 2 men died this horrible death because they tried to cross in the country, getting around the cartels. They were caught, and they paid the ultimate price. And the last little thing I wanted to say with the Jalisco New Generation cartel, they're young, they're in their 20s, they're young. They put out a press release. We've talked about that. The new generation here likes to put out press releases similar to ISIS. They said that if you kill one of us, we will kill 2 of you. And they're making good on those promises. So if this is not a terrorist organization, I don't know what terrorism means, because this is a terrorist organization and we are doing nothing about it. But we have no problem dropping bombs out of drones in the Middle East under the guise of terrorists, because they're bad guys. We don't want them to come here. But
and what was it, Kimberly, we established last time that sometimes it kills like 6, 7, 8 innocent people. They're only going for 1.
Yep.
Or it kills the hostage, that we're trying to free.
Yeah. Bad things happen, but
go
ahead.
if this was the Trump administration, they would already have this committee having a hearing, a congressional hearing, and Biden conclusion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't even think he knows what he's doing. I think there's too many other people pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And I've seen some disturbing stuff for him, especially spotting little girls sitting in the audience when he's doing a speech.
I know.
Wow, they look like they're 19, and he leaves and goes down and touches them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. I know. Come on, man. What's up, Joe? Amtrak Joe? Get back on your train. But yeah, I mean, this is why his handlers try to keep him on a very short leash, because once he goes off script, he's completely out there. Which is why I think that Kamala Harris is not trying to do anything with the border. She doesn't want to be kind of toxic with any of these issues, because the likelihood that Biden runs for re-election, not so great. But who will replace him will be Kamala Harris. And so this is why she doesn't want to deal with the border, because she wants to be able to pander.
Yeah, and she's already on record for being for open borders. I mean, she's screaming it until she gets the second place job.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, but this is where the voters, they actually need to wake up and vote, and they need to vote with what's going on right now. And if this issue is important, and they live in a bad neighborhood, and there's crime being committed, then better stop voting for the Democrats.
Yeah.
My last bug.
It's like a